Believe I'm walking righteous, that's the way I get down. I'm trying to make the Hall of Fame, get my house and my crown. It's a great cloud of witnesses up in the stands. They cheer me on when I get weary. They be clapping their hands. I got a goal, homie. I'm trying to see the King's face. I'm trying to walk it out for real. Trying to finish this race. And yeah, sometimes I be alone, and sometimes I get this. But it's a lot of saints that walk it out. Here goes the list. Now Moses walked it out, and Enoch walked it out. Elijah walked it out. Elisha walked it out, and David walked it out, and Peter walked it out, and John walked it out, and guess who walked it out? Say Jesus walked it out, and 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 Jesus walked it out. Will you walk it out? Will you walk it out? Will you walk it out? Make some noise!
Walk it out.
According to Neil Postman in his amazing book, Amusing Ourselves to Death, quote, Henry Coswell remarked in 1839 that religious mania is said to be the prevailing form of insanity in the United States. Yet it is essential to bear in mind, says Postman, that quarrels over doctrine between the revivalist movements of the 18th and 19th centuries and the established churches fiercely opposed to them were argued in pamphlets and books in largely rational, logically ordered language. It would be a serious mistake to think of Billy Graham or any other television revivalist as a latter-day Jonathan Edwards. Edwards was one of the most brilliant and creative minds produced by America. His contribution to aesthetic theory is almost as important as his contribution to theology. His interests were mostly academic. He spent long hours each day in his study. He didn't speak to his audiences extemporaneously. He read his sermons, which were tightly knit and closely reasoned expositions of theological doctrine. Audiences may have been moved emotionally by Edwards' language, but they were first and foremost required to understand it. Unlike the principal figures in today's Great Awakening, Oral Roberts, Jerry Falwell, Jimmy Swaggart et al., yesterday's leaders of revival movements in America were men of learning, faith, and reason, and generous expository gifts.
Boy, that's amazing from the pen of a guy like Postman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very insightful. And then also Gabler has this to say, if sport didn't have a difficult time transforming itself into entertainment, neither, it turned out, did religion. Evangelicalism, which had begun as a kind of spiritual entertainment in the 19th century, only refined its techniques in the 20th, especially after the advent of television. Televangelists like Oral Roberts and Jimmy Swaggart recast the old revival meeting as a television variety show. And Pat Robertson's 700 Club was modeled after The Tonight Show. Only the guests on this talk show weren't pitching a new movie or album. They were pitching salvation. But it wasn't just on television that religion appropriated the methods of entertainment to keep a flock that was everywhere inundated by show business. It was in the churches themselves. The movement toward a more vernacular liturgy and more contemporary music may have seemed like simple modernization of an aging religious institution. Not incidentally, however, they were also ways of making services show business. And one of the things he goes on to point out is the irony that as religion became entertainment, accommodated to entertainment, before long, entertainment became a religion. And today, he says, whether it's sports, whether it's politics, anything that's serious and important is now required to not be serious and important, but delivered in the style of entertainment.
And something else that was addressed earlier is pulpits have been transformed into platforms and stages.
Sure.
And this is being viewed as a good thing. But I think it's not only the message that emanates from that platform and stage, but I think the platform and stage itself is a message.
Right.
Of course it is.
Exactly.
The church looks more like a theater than a place of worship.
The other thing that I think we ought to be more concerned about is, are we going to, with this equipment, pass on the faith once delivered to the saints to the next generation?
That's the
I think
question.
the answer
That is
is
a
no.
big question.
That's the question. You know, one of the things that comes out a lot these days is people say, become a Christian. Christianity's fun. It's fun to be a Christian. Well, sometimes it's not fun to be a Christian. Ask Peter if it was fun to be a Christian, or Paul if it was fun to be a Christian, or the martyrs down through the ages. Ask Christians in China if it's fun to be a Christian. if fun is the criterion, what happens when I'm not having any fun anymore?
Right.
Yeah. It has to begin with Christianity's true.
One of the things that we're seeing now with another generation, Time Magazine just had a story on this, is that now younger people are completely turned off by glitzy show business worship.
Totally.
And a whole nother generation now want to go back to intelligent, thoughtful sermons.
What the whole emergent thing's about.
A liturgy that wasn't invented the Thursday before by software.
That's right. They're looking for some sense of transcendence, some sense that maybe God is here and not just a mirror of myself and the others around me. Folks, we've been talking about that's entertainment, the how churches are becoming a part of the culture of entertainment. And we've been quoting from non-Christian sociologists and historians here. I'd like to finish this program by quoting Neil Postman again, the author of Amusing Ourselves to Death. Postman says, "Everything that makes religion an historic, profound, and sacred human activity is stripped away. There is no ritual, no dogma, no tradition, no theology, and above all, no sense of spiritual transcendence. On these shows, the preacher is tops. God comes out as second banana. It's true enough that some of these men are uneducated, provincial, and even bigoted. They certainly do not compare favorably with well-known evangelicals of an earlier period, especially Edwards and Whitefield. Most Americans, including preachers, have difficulty accepting the truth, if they really think about it at all, that not all forms of discourse can be converted from one medium to another. Moreover, the television screen itself has a strong bias toward a psychology of secularism. The screen is so saturated with our memories of profane events, so deeply associated with the commercial and entertainment worlds, that it's difficult for it to be recreated as a frame for sacred events. Among other things, the viewer is at all times aware that a flick of the switch will produce a different and secular event on the screen, a hockey game, a commercial, or a cartoon. The preachers are forthright about how they control the content of their preaching in churches to maximize their ratings. You shall wait a very long time indeed if you wish to hear an electronic preacher refer to the difficulties a rich man will have in gaining access to heaven. The executive director of the National Religious Broadcasters Association sums up what he calls the unwritten law of all television preachers. You can get your share of the audience only by offering people something they want. So understandably, says Postman, there can't be anything significant said in an entertainment culture. I believe I'm not mistaken in saying that Christianity is sort of a demanding and serious religion. When it's delivered as easy and amusing, it's another kind of religion altogether. The showman, not God, is the celebrity. If I'm not mistaken, the word for this is blasphemy. Look forward to being with you again next week on The White Horse Inn. The White Horse Inn is a listener-supported broadcast. To help us get this message out, give us a call at 1-800-890-7556. That's 1-800-890-7556. You can also find information about our various support programs at our website, whitehorseinn.org. That's whitehorseinn.org.